How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Brad, the DCUGeek, and today I'd like to talk about the latest episode of Superman and Lois, entitled A Brief Reminiscence in Between Cataclysmic Events. And yes, that is the actual title. That's a meaty title. So a huge portion of this episode is basically a love letter to Superman, to us the fans. At least that's the way it feels as a lifelong Superman fan. We're getting to see what made Clark into Superman. We're getting to see what were the events that transpired that brought us to present day. So in that, we get to see Clark making his way to the Arctic and being really frustrated that there's nothing there, and then he chucks down the crystal, which would end up going into the ground and building his ice castle fortress all around him. He chucks the crystal down, he's all frustrated, and he begins to walk away, and all of a sudden the ground begins to rumble all around him, and before you know it, he has an ice castle, although it really just looks like a chunk of earth with a hole in it. Not very fortress-like. But anyway, so then he spends the next, presumably, I don't know, decade or something like that, hanging out in this ice castle with his digital daddy, Jor-El, who basically teaches him how to use his powers properly in this time. So there's kind of a voiceover with a bit of montage sort of deal going on, and we see him learn how to fly and that whole bit. I really wonder what he was doing up there that whole time, because it's apparent that he didn't go back to the world of man, because when he shows back up in Smallville to see his mom, she's all like, looking like she hadn't seen him in a real long time. I don't even know how she recognized him, because when he went to the Arctic, he just looked all young and like maybe he was only a few years past puberty. And then by the time he gets home, he's sporting a full face of hair. That's a lot of growth. Also, where did he get his clothes during that time? Because clearly he grew in size and stature, and yet we see him leaving with completely different sets of clothes. I guess he must have been making supply trips back to the world of man, but not hanging out there. Where did he get the money to buy the clothes? I'm asking too many questions. Anyway, so he goes back, reconnects with the world of man, reconnects with his mother, and he wants to be the Earth's champion, and he doesn't really know exactly how he's going to do it. He just knows he wants to use his powers to do so. And his mom, while he was gone, was like, hey, well, listen, while you were gone, I just happened to built you this suit. I knew you'd be bigger when you came back. I had a dream, and I saw you in a suit like this with a cape, so I made this for you. And he's like, that's great. And I'm thinking, that's fantastic. His mom made his suit. I love when his mom makes his suit, and it's not just a piece of Kryptonian armor. But also, it's kind of strange that she knew his exact measurements. Maybe that's why the suit's so tight. Maybe she intended it to be baggy. And they both comment that, but it's missing something on the chest there. It's kind of funny that, yes, it's very cool we're getting the Fleischer Studios Superman costume here. I love, this is the first time we've ever seen this suit, live action ever, this show. Not this episode, it did premiere previously, but we really get a good look at this fantastic, probably one of the best live action Superman suits to date. So I love the suit, but I always thought it was kind of weird that when he's in the fortress, he sees this like Superman House of El crest, and then the Superman crest that he and his mother designed for the chest looks nothing like it, even though he has full knowledge of what the House of El crest actually looks like. It's a nitpick. It doesn't even matter. I'm just glad they used the Fleischer suit. Anywho, so then we get this fantastic set of scenes where we see Superman becoming Superman, saving people, doing things that Superman does. Essentially, the friendly, get your cat out of the tree, stop the car from falling off the bridge into the canal kind of deal. And then he begins to realize as he gets this job for the Daily Planet, which he basically begs Perry for, and Perry sees a good thing, sees a spark in Clark, and decides to place him alongside Lois so he can learn the ropes, and so he and Lois are working together, slowly but steadily falling in love. He begins to see that there are other things that need to be dealt with as well. There's very serious problems, and if he's Superman, of course he's going to tackle all of them. It was also cool to see a head nod to Superman versus the KKK, which, for those of you who don't know, it was actually a mini-series that was released not that long ago. I collected it issue for issue. It was fantastic, and it dealt with some very heavy topics, but also it's an old school story as well that is contemporary with the Fleischer Superman costume. So it was just really neat to see a classic sort of story brought into modern day, even if it was only just for a few moments of footage. But in that time, Superman saves Lois Lane and a whole bunch of bystanders, and defeats the villain. It was so good. Seeing this gave me a lot of excitement for the potential of where Superman and Lois, this TV show, could go in the future. They may decide not to film it in Smallville for the entirety of its run. Who knows where it's going to go? We only know that this season is set in Smallville. And it's in these flashbacks that we also see not only the beginnings of Superman and the relationship between Lois and Clark working at the Daily Planet in the first place, but also the birth of Jordan and Jonathan. It's a fantastic little throwback, but you see, the positivity and the goodness and the warm feeling can't stay forever, because interspersed as we move along throughout these scenes, there's a shadowy figure standing there. And Clark at first doesn't really know what it is, doesn't quite get it, doesn't realize that we're not getting a flashback. He's getting a flashback. He is living in his memories because remember how the previous episode ended with him limping back to the Fortress of Solitude and collapsing in the doorway? Well, for an unknown amount of time, his brother, tal-rho, has had his brain hooked up to this Kryptonian device where he can see everything inside of Kal-El's head, and he's trying to mine him for information because, of course, he's pissed. He had plans for world domination and to bring back Krypton, and Superman thwarted the whole plan in episode 10. So what's he going to do now? The stupid, low, cowardly thing. He's going to use Clark's family against him. That's right. Essentially, he's like, hey, I know all this stuff about you, and I would never hurt your kids as babies, but I certainly would as teenagers. Actually, I'm going to use your family against you. You're either going to join me, or I am going to destroy your family. To which happens, Clark is like, no, you're not going to do that, and they have a fisticuffs in the fortress. But remember, Clark is still depowered from emitting all that energy. He is in a very, very low power state, stronger than the average human, but certainly not powered up enough to go toe-to-toe with his half-brother. So, as usual, as we've seen quite a few times in this show, Superman gets the snot beaten out of him and knocked out and left on the ground, leaving just enough time for tal-rho to fly off to Smallville and confront Lois and Jonathan and Jordan. And he's basically like, hey, guess what? Your dad's not coming back. He's in a heap on the ground in the fortress in his little ice castle. Don't know why he has an ice castle. I built mine in Arizona where it's really sunny. Stupid. Okay, he didn't say it quite like that, but you know that he's thinking that. And then he basically goes on to tell them, yeah, because your husband wouldn't join me. Yeah, I'm going to kill you now. That's what's going to happen. And Jordan is like, over my dead body, buddy. And he didn't really say that, but he steps up and tries to, be the hero and tries to blast him with his heat vision because, now he can control it, except for tal-rho is far more developed. He's far stronger. Jordan's powers are still developing. They have kind of like a heat vision fight, which just results in Jordan ending up on his back, lost. He's not hurt, but he clearly didn't win that short little heat vision exchange. The kid's got heart, though. You got to give him that. Now, right when he's about to incinerate the family, Superman shows up at the last minute, boom, lands right in front of them, places himself in between the two, clearly winded. I mean, he hasn't got his powers back. Honestly, Superman is not fast enough at this point to just fly up to the sun and recharge for a few minutes, and he is drained, so it would take a while to recharge him to that extent. His cells need a good soak in the solar radiation, and he doesn't have time for that. He's probably not even quite as fast as he should be, considering he's drained. He probably would have gotten there much faster, considering Kal-El usually wakes up not that long after he gets knocked out. He probably actually flew there slower, so he didn't have time to go and recharge in the sun. Anyway, so he lands, puts himself in between his family and his half-brother, and he says, you know what? No, you know what? I will. I submit. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't hurt my family. He's trying to buy time, essentially. And so his brother spares the family, because he says, listen, if you submit to me, I'll spare your family. So he submits to him, spares his family. They fly off to his, I don't know if you call it his tal-rho's Fortress of Solitude, I guess. Fly off to tal-rho's fortress, where we get to meet Tal's dad, Zeta, and he is every bit as nasty and every bit of a villain as you'd expect. Zeta actually reminds me of the slimy guy from Lord of the Rings. You know, this guy, he reminds me of him, actually, except for he stands a bit taller and more confident and proud, but he still reminds me of that kind of greasy slime ball dude. And Zeta is bad. Zeta is so bad for Tal. No wonder Tal is such a jerk. With a dad like that, what else could you grow up to be? And by the end of the episode, we see Clark being eradicated. And in this series, what eradicated means is, I don't think he's turned evil, as they're implying in the end of the episode here. I think that someone else's consciousness is being put into Cal's body. It doesn't say who, because our final look at Superman is him after being blasted with this big red beam from the Eradicator. His eyes, he looks up and his eyes are red with heat vision, and that is it. We don't know that that's Cal, and I'm going to go as far to say that's probably not Cal. We do know that the consciousness of the original host is still in the mind. So I'm assuming that there will be some kind of scene with Clark doing battle in his mind with the new recipient of the body. And I got a funny feeling that the person who will be in that body is going to be Zeta. I'm sure that Zeta, because that's only, again, in the same way that we see Jor-El just as a computer program who, I forgot to mention, during the confrontation in the fortress, he pipes up and says some stuff that Tal doesn't like, and he flies up and he crunches him in his hand, crunches the crystal. No more Jor-El. But if Clark is smart, he would have made a backup somewhere. You know, probably need a very big USB drive for that kind of Kryptonian information. But I'm sure there's a backup somewhere. Anyway, so he crushes the crystal. No more Jor-El. Well, I am sure that Zeta, but he is the same thing. He's just a digital AI of the actual person. I'm sure that actual Zeta got beamed into Superman, and we're probably going to see some kind of confrontation between the two of them. I don't know what that's going to amount to, and it'll probably end up with Superman taking control of his body again somehow, because they can't do the same trick twice that they did with the Eradicator reversing that. That's already been done. So now Superman has to do his Superman thing and instill hope and love and patience and compassion into somebody. That's what I think. I don't know. That's what I think. And the final scene really is Lois and John and Jordan all coming into the house and then giving John Henry Irons a call saying, it's happening just as it did on your world. Superman's turned evil.
John, it's happening. Just like you said it would. I think Superman's been turned.
Now, I think that's a big misnomer. I honestly don't think that he's evil. I feel like that's what they're going to believe, and John is going to show up, and I'm not sure how this is going to pan out. This is episode 11. I believe there's 15, so there's 4 more. So the painful thing is we're going to have to sit through evil Superman for an episode, maybe 2. But it really won't be Superman in control. This is my opinion. I don't know this, but this is what I'm thinking will happen. Because in the end, Superman has to win. It's his own show. They can't have him go actually evil because they won't have a season 2. So, but I'll tell you one thing. On a final note, it does pain my soul. It does pain my soul to hear Superman say, I submit.
I'll do whatever you ask. Just leave my family alone.
Pledge to me that you will submit, and I promise to let them live unharmed.
Clark, please don't do this.
I submit.
That's painful. That never even happened in the original Superman movie. He got down, he pretended like he was going to submit, and then he crushed Zod's hand, and then threw him into the pit. And then the police came and took him away later in a cutscene that most people didn't see, so they just thought that Superman killed him when he didn't. Anyway, I've taken up enough of your time. Thank you so much for allowing me to have some of it, and I will see you with the next one. Have a fantastic day, Super Friends, and take care.